summer, you don't become a hero
Norman!
Norman? This is so Norman.
by being normal.
I didn't see Paranorman until well after it was out of theaters, but everyone told me I had to watch it. They said it was revolutionary, a must-see, so when I finally did see it, I was a little underwhelmed. Not by the animation, no, the stop motion in this film was some of the best I've ever seen. I never felt like I was watching clay puppets. These feel like real, believable people. Which brings me to my second point of praise. The characters are all solidly defined, which is impressive for such a big cast. And even more so when you consider how easily they all could have been stereotypes. You've got the eccentric loner, the bratty sister, the bully, the dumb jock, but all of them are fleshed out enough to feel like real people. They just never feel quite like they're in real situations. The film has some story and pacing issues. Near the end there's a big build-up to a dramatic climax, but it's interrupted by one of the most implausible ceasefires I've ever seen.
So, they're not going to hurt us?
No. Does it look like any of them are trying to hurt you? They're just people. Well, at least they used to be. Just stupid people who should have known better. They did something unforgivable because they were scared and they were cursed for it. Now it's happening all over again. Don't you get it? They were just like you. But now it has to stop. For good.
Yeah, I'll believe a zombie apocalypse before I believe an angry mob can be calmed down that easily. And then the film takes its sweet time driving us to the actual climax, which, to be fair, is completely worth the wait. The big message of the movie is not to be mean to people who are different, which is a valid message, but it's really nothing new. And I've seen other films do it better. In Wreck-It Ralph, for instance, the racer's prejudice against Vanellope is explained. They think she's a glitch, and if she ever did race, the game could appear to be out of order, which wouldn't be good for anyone. Yes, they were needlessly cruel to her, but at least their bias made a strange sort of sense within the universe, giving them stronger motivations. In Paranorman, there is no motivation beyond the kids are just cruel. Okay, kids can be very cruel, but what about the parents? Portraying them as simply unfair, closed-minded people seems a bit unfair in and of itself. If I had a kid who said he could see ghosts, I'd absolutely be concerned. Although I am glad for this line.
You know, sometimes people say things that seem mean, but they do it because they're afraid.
Yes, fear is where prejudice stems from, fear of the unknown, and it's easier to retreat to that than try and understand a different point of view. And I'm glad this movie addressed that without feeling the need to beat us over the head with it. But this is a fantasy story about paranormal activity, so Norman's ability to talk to ghosts doesn't really need to be justified. Worse than him is the little girl who was branded as a witch. We know nothing about this child. It seems like she's just there to be innocent and scared and show how cruel and unjust the judges are being. To be fair, injustice is particularly harsh when it's directed at a child, so this was an effective story point. But again, in a movie like Wreck-It Ralph, Vanellope is still very much the victim of a terrible injustice, but the source of the bias against her is explained. This is especially necessary in a fantasy world that isn't based on real-world biases like skin color and gender. We need to be able to relate it to something in the real world to connect with it. But there is no explanation for why this little girl is called a witch. Why her specifically? Why not any of the other kids in the town? Even a witch hunt movie like The Crucible gave us a reason for why all the people in the town were condemned. They were all stupid, stemmed from paranoia, and had no grounding in reality, but we always did get a reason. In the climax of Paranorman, it's implied that this girl has psychic abilities. Could she do stuff like this while she was alive? Is that why the judges were so afraid of her? Can people have psychic abilities in this universe? Is that even what's happening here? Making her psychic would be a fascinating and unique way to explain the judges' fear of her, but I don't want to have to assume that's the case. Not that leaving a movie open for interpretation is a bad thing, but as a moviegoer, I would have appreciated a little clarification. As it is, everything about these characters' problems just seems too abstract. They rely entirely on fantastical elements and have little grounding in real-world problems beyond people are being mean to me because I'm different. That being said, there's nothing wrong with having that idea in a movie. It's very relatable, and having the difference be an ability to communicate with spirits was a fresh take on the concept. This film really did feel like nothing I had ever seen before, and I have a great amount of respect for an animated movie that can achieve that. I can't really fault the film just for being what it is, and all the problems I had with it were nitpicks that could have made a strong story even stronger. Writing setbacks aside, this film really did take some chances. I give it 3 stars out of 4. Paranorman was created by Leica Entertainment and distributed by Focus Features.
There's nothing wrong with being scared, Norman. So long as you don't let it change who you are.
Paranorman.
You wanna play some hockey?
She looked into me so sweetly, and we left the room discreetly. No one else could know the secret of our love. Little ghost, what I'm scared of the most. Can you scare me up a little bit of love? I'm the only one that sees you, and I can't do much to please you. And it's not your time to meet the Lord above.
But this is a fantasy story about paranormal activity. So Norman's ability to Oh my gosh, why can't I say this?